because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Go Track, the podcast about golf and golf-adjacent stuff, mostly from Africa. I'm playing a 2-ball this evening. I do not have any of my fellow Go Track podcasters with me, but very happy to introduce our guest for this evening, Mr. Ben Karpinski. Ben, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Jared. Ever since I've actually met you in the flesh at the Dead Bank Golf Challenge, I've been looking forward to us finally having a chat.
I knew you were a bit of a golf sicko when I saw you in the 43-degree heat walking around with that big straw hat, following, gosh, who were you following that day? Was it Hidalgo, I think?
I was following Hidalgo having a bit of a hack, and it was very entertaining to watch that. Yeah, I mean, I am. I'm obsessed with golf, but like not in a way because I've got nothing else really going on in my life. There's so much that competes with golf in my day-to-day life, but it's in my blood. It's in anywhere it could be. And I mean, I started playing at the age of 12, and quite honestly, I think every single year it incrementally gets more so from what I've just described. And it's just such a pleasure meeting guys like you as well, like genuine oaks that just love the game and are looking to do cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I remember when we were chatting on the side of the fairway there, you said that you were really trying to structure your life as efficiently as possible to ensure there was as much golf as possible, which is that's like music to my ears. So probably long overdue to have you on the podcast. But yeah, I'm very thankful that you could join us, and we've got quite a bit to chat about. Firstly, Ben, just tell me a little bit about what you're up to now. Obviously, you I think a lot of our listeners will know you pretty well from all the various different like platforms that you've been on. But yeah, just talk a little bit about what you're doing now and where people can find your content.
Yeah, James, I think for the last like 15 years, I've kind of got into a position where I sort of monetized being a sports jock, and that was when social media started. So content's always been a big thing for me. I've always loved like telling stories. Originally, that was just through writing, that's when people used to read magazines and that kind of stuff. And then that progressed into radio, blogs and those kind of things. And it kind of progressed into the radio and podcast space. And then as our eyeballs become more and more manipulated towards short film video content, that's ultimately where all this kind of stuff is evolving to. But yeah, the absolute primary, my biggest focus is the On the Bounce show. So sure, today we released episode 54. So it's been over a year of consecutively having a Wednesday show. So we've got a green screen studio show here in Sandton. My co-host Sandila Shangazi and I, and we unfortunately don't focus enough on golf, but it's a general sports show. And then for a very long time now, I've been the ambassador for Cobra Puma Golf here in South Africa. Again, I just absolutely love the brand. I've always loved the brand. Ever since the late 90s, I had like the original Cobra titanium driver, which clanged like a sound like dropping a can on the floor.
I remember it.
So yeah, I physically do work with the guys. I'm absolutely so proud of having that association in my life. So I work with the team, again, on content creation, working with the pros. So predominantly my work, it's the podcast, it's the stuff that we create around that, and then with Cobra Puma Golf South Africa, those are my two main focuses and absolute love. And then I mean, I still write course reviews. Golf RSA currently is where I'm writing. The fun part about that is that it's not so much a technical course review, but more about showcasing really cool regions in the country. The one that's about to be released now wrote about the East London coast, basically. I played there probably 5 or 6 years ago. And, there's so many amazing places, as you know, in this country to go play. And I think for a lot of people, they always just find themselves going through, it's the Sun City, it's the Fan Court, it's the Garden Route and those things, which are amazing. I'm going to Fan Court next month. I'm excited. But there are so many cool places there. I think that's ultimately where I want to spend more of my time within golf travel. meeting guys like you, getting other guys together, because I think like I have so much fun with what I do. I have the sort of means through my network and what I've been doing for the last 15 years, as I said, that for me, golf's always exciting. Like I go on great trips, and so many guys don't really, it's not that they don't have access or resources, it's just they're not entirely sure how to actually create trips and how to kind of just go outside of their bubbles of their, like either the home course or just playing with their sort of local mates. Yeah, and I get a real kick out of that, actually. Like I love it when I see mates going on tours and having fun, playing different courses, debating the course rankings when they come out, like all that stuff. It's very much my wheelhouse, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you talking there, it rings so true in kind of my network as well, where I see people, and one of the like motivations for us actually starting this podcast was that we're so passionate about golf, and we would sit around and have those conversations, and we found that the level of like knowledge and conversations was just felt like it was lacking a little bit in terms of the depth that the country has to offer. And that's not just the courses, that's like the people and the characters that are in the game. I mean, it's a sort of a tapestry across the country of golf characters, and you can go to a little 9-hole golf course in Limpopo somewhere, and I guarantee you will meet at least 2 or 3 incredibly interesting characters. Yep. And the same can be said at Royal Joburg or Royal Cape or whatever. You're going to meet these people, and the stories and the storytelling that goes on in golf is, I think, what kind of has attracted me to it. I'm very glad to hear you writing about the East London coast. I was down there 2 months ago and played East London Golf Club. I think it's just, that whole area is just incredible. When you fly in there, I was taking some videos like from the plane, and there's probably 50 golf courses that could still be built amongst those sand dunes in that area. Oh. And it would be amazing if there was more golf that was built down there. But it's just, I love that part of the world. It's amazing.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we both know that's never going to be reality. But, when you look at places around the world, like look at Bannon Dunes, what's happened there over the years. Look at all these amazing links courses that are popping up in places like New Zealand and stuff. Like we've got the land and locations for those kind of things, but unfortunately, we'll never have the infrastructure or resources. But we still have enough really cool courses that, even though it's not going to make the golf world top 100 or be all over Instagram with like influencers, we've got so many cool places to go to and outskirts to kind of visit within that.
Yeah, we do. So just getting back to your show, congratulations on the show. I'm not going to lie and say I've watched all your episodes, but I've definitely watched quite a few. And just wanted to say, I think it was last week, I listened to your interview with Alan Donald. Talk about things that I'm here for. You guys sitting with Alan Donald, analyzing like every scorecard from the 1992 Cricket World Cup, like sign me up. Like that was epic. I absolutely loved it. Like the level of detail that he went into, it was such a cool conversation. Very, very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of these things kind of become a blur because there's just so much sport, let alone how you try to cover it. But I think when I started the show, it was trying to get the right sort of guests, and getting guests, as I'm sure you know, is hard. I mean, and you get them virtually. Like we can only have people sitting in the studio, which means we can only have people who could be in Sandton, Johannesburg, South Africa at a time, who actually do want to give of their time. So the hardest thing has been that. And through a friend of ours, Dom Hendricks, who's the captain of the Lions team up here, the franchise team, he, really helped us to get Alan in there. There was a tiny little window, literally in like a rain break, that Alan pulled in. And for me, that was a podcast I've always wanted to do. And I think like going forward in the show, we want to isolate those things more, because then it's sort of like timeless content. And also, like, there were times where, before social media, we didn't get the play-by-plays and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of unearth that. And I kind of got the impression with Alan, it's episode 50, if anybody wants to go back and find it on the Bounce Show. I found it with Alan that in the beginning, I think he was just going to think it was an interview. And then as we got into it, like, we definitely stirred some memories I don't think he's had for quite a while, And by the time we got towards the end of it, like there was so much cool. Like he's not the most emotional guy, but he's a very genuine and lovely oak to talk to. Sorry, my cat is going to be in and out of the shot here. But like I definitely felt like, you know, when he got into talking about like that semi-final and playing against England and playing against the Oaks he played club cricket against. It was so cool. And that's what I really feel like the beauty of this medium is that, you know, there's so many things you can watch on YouTube or on all kinds of channels where you get something presented to you. But if you can really get into like building a rapport with guests, and we've had some really good feedback on that episode, thanks. And like you can start to actually understand what people actually think about and how they normally talk with their mates. And I think that's always been the coolest thing about the podcast. I mean, you just look at your example. You and your mates get together and it's an experience, you know, like some people don't have those kind of people in their lives. And this is why this is going well. This is why No Laying Up was able to start and get going, because people actually like that sort of idea of building rapport and seeing that, because that's how you actually can live something.
No, absolutely. It was a really cool interview. I would encourage everyone to go listen to it, because I think the lesson that I took out of that was basically, if you can make people feel comfortable in a interview by talking about things that may seem slightly mundane, but they would be important to that particular person, and it's things that they probably haven't been asked about for 20 or 30 years. I had an interview with Dale Hayes like last year, and I tugged on a couple of strings like that with him, and I could hear him just like, you could just see the memories just like come flooding back, you know, and then I, obviously with Dale, like I couldn't stop him, like I had to, like, you know, we could have spoken for 3 hours. It was he's just got stories for days. But listen, what's happening in your golf game? Very briefly, how's it going? How are you feeling?
So
playing a lot?
No, not really. Like I like winter golf, but at the same time, winter golf in the mornings here in Joburg is pretty rough. I haven't actually played properly for like. So I had a really, really great tour of Scotland, and then when I came back, pretty much I had a little operation, which meant I couldn't go outside, I couldn't play any sport, and I couldn't go any sort of places where the wind might blow and dust might go. I haven't played in like 5 weeks, but I played 9 holes last Friday, playing 9 holes tomorrow. You know, I'm a big believer that Johannesburg is the greatest golf city for a variety of reasons. You've got the obvious ones like hugely accessible, hugely affordable. You've got old established courses from the early 1900s. You've got amazing weather, but you get to play that whole double season thing. So I like a good bouncy golf course from time to time. I think it gives you options. It's lots of fun. You can get your way out of trouble. You can have a lot more sort of risk reward kind of holes. And Joburg for 3 months of the year gives you that. It's incredibly interesting that one golf course could be quite mundane when it's all lush and receptive, and then suddenly it becomes an absolute beast once you get a little bit of like firm footing. So those are the months we're in right now. I'm playing Rand Park tomorrow. It's going to be a sweltering 7 degrees Celsius. So yeah, maybe it's not so much about the long irons. You know, you put a hybrid in the bag for that because you don't want to thin a long iron in this weather. But yeah, dude, I'm very excited about like the sort of later July into August. You get some wind up here as well. But yeah, it's the sheer expanse of golf courses is truly incredible here.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's so much choice there. I mean, when you look on Google Earth and you look around Joburg, they're all within like arm's length of each other. It's really
close.
cool.
And I think it's 27 of the top 100 in the country are essentially within 20 kilometers of each other. Yeah. Still an index of 4.3. Probably won't get much lower than that, because another thing about my golf game is that a lot of the time when I'm playing, I'm actually creating content. So I've kind of got this strange good problem in life, in that I essentially make a living out of creating content, but it's got to the point now where my passion for content and golf is like collided, and it's so seldom that I get to play 18 holes where it's just me, my bag, and there's nothing to capture an image or to like record a link or something. So sometimes I feel that maybe my handicap would be a lot lower if I was literally me and a scorecard. You know, like when I went on this trip to Scotland with these mates of mine, you know, I really wanted to create like a cool tour video for us, because like what we were able to do in this trip, thanks to a mate of mine, Justin, was like truly, truly cool. Like no photos ever going to do it justice. But I did feel like in the sort of last couple of rounds, like, you know, I've got my camera with me. The tripod goes up for the old shot tracer from time to time. I had my drone before I crashed it. And it definitely, it makes golf a lot harder. You know, like whenever we see those big YouTube channels, they've got crews. Like they've got 2 or 3 people. They do all that kind of stuff. I'm still doing the whole hitting and filming thing, which is problematic for scores.
Yeah, I think we've learned that as well. When we started this, we were like, oh, we're gonna play golf and we're gonna film the match or whatever, and then you get on the actual golf course and you're like, it's impossible to do both. It really. I think it's important for people to realize when they watch all those videos and that, like the amount of people behind the scenes that are there filming all of these things. I think it's a different story if you're able to just play and you've got literally a film crew following you. But when you're bootstrapping it, I guess like we are, then it's not really all that fun, to be honest. And I've tried to minimize as much how much we do of that now. So like,
yeah.
What we tend to do is we say, okay, we're going to do a 3-hole match on video between you two guys, and then one of us will like film it, and then that's it. It's three holes, so we'll take like the last 3 holes of the day or something. And
that's cool.
Yeah, we can't. But listen, Ben. Okay, we've got a lot.
Sorry, Dave. Just on that last point, I've got to share this one thing.
Yes.
Because I've got like a content, like I've got a couple of plans that I want to throw in. Like I told you, I want to get more and more entrenched. And one of the things I started this year was I'm trying to play like SA's best driver holes. And in theory, it's great, right? Like there's so many courses around the country. I've done 3 so far, about to do the 4th one next week. And I would love to get someone just to film what this whole process is, because all of the best golf courses in this country are mostly full. They're very busy. When you see the guys doing all these things on these channels, like they're at these private courses or it's like quite low. And so I either have to be at the crack of dawn with the mowers, or maybe there's potentially a gap as the field turns, whatever. And whenever I shoot these things, I'm always quite amazed. Like it's literally like a 30-minute frenetic dash. If you go into my Instagram account, you'll see these videos and they look quite calm. But basically, I've got like 10 minutes to try stripe a drive while the drone is filming. I can do the drone stuff before or after, so that's okay. But I've got to stripe a drive, then I've got to get into the fairway, then I've got to talk through the second shots. I've got to hit this all together, okay? So far so good. Like I haven't like carved anything out of bounds, or I haven't had anything too horrific. And you're doing all of this basically on the clock, but you've got 2 tripods to give yourself the perception of you can get a shot here and a shot there. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's quite exhilarating. But yeah, I want to get to the stage where find the resources, find the sponsors, and then do these things properly. But yeah, to the point is it's been quite funny.
No, I can relate to that for sure. Jacques actually said, I must ask you about the best driver hole, because he wants to nominate a hole at Cotswold Downs for you. I think it was the 18th at Cotswold, JDV. I'm not sure if I got that right, but
18. I mean, 17. If there's no miss, that's also pretty special.
17.
So I've only played Cotswold Downs once. I played it once. Yeah, I was doing a bit of a KZN tour with the same mate that I went to Scotland with, and we were hugely hungover from a big night before, which ended up at a Peter Maritzburg Indian takeout afterwards. And I think the first 4 holes, I wasn't entirely sure whether I was coming or going.
I'm sure Jacques will be familiar with that establishment.
And then the mist rolled in to the point where it was like you didn't know where you're going on 17. You hit and hope, and then 18 was basically exactly the same. It was such a cool experience, though. Great golf course.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Well, look, let's try and tee that up for when you come down, because I'm sure Jacques would love to host you there. He's pretty much Mr. Cotswold Downs, as a lot of our listeners know. But all right. Ben, I wanted to do just like a very brief roundup, and we can dip in and out of these topics as much as we like. But just since we last did a recording, which was kind of before the US Open, obviously we had JJ Spawn winning at Oakmont. We then had Keegan Bradley pipping Tommy Fleetwood last weekend in quite the fashion, and there's probably a bit to talk about there. I wanted to just ask you, what was your take on the US Open in general? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I've had this conversation with a friend of mine. It's like it's almost kind of cool how these majors, where the courses become like more than just the course, they become the character of the week, and there's a real profile to it. And I think Oakmont's got a cool story. And I think as well, a US Open being at a course with no trees is quite unconventional. They say it's the world's hardest golf course, all that kind of stuff. The purists say that, you take away the art of chipping and you take away so many things because if you miss the fairway, you're dead. But the US Open is the US Open. And I never wanted to change. It got a bit soft a few years on some of the courses. I just think it was nice to get back to where it was with the US Open. It is a bit extreme. It is a bit crazy. It was cool. I found it was engaging viewing wise, put it that way. I know that all the kind of Rory semantics and the stuff on the side and all that sort of stuff detracted a little bit. But it was a good leaderboard here. It was a really good leaderboard. I think Adam Scott was the romantic story that didn't quite happen. You had Burns, who was just basically, it was too big for him. And then JJ Spawn, for the average person that doesn't actually watch a lot of golf, it'll obviously be a huge upset. But if you watch that guy's results this year and how he sort of trended from being in a place of absolutely nowhere, the guy's got some serious game there. It was so cool to see a guy win it with something spectacular finally. We see so many tournaments where it's like the lag 2-putt, which in itself, the guy's earned the right, totally. But when they hole a bomb like that, he holed the longest putt of the week to win the US Open. There was
outrageous.
That suitable amount of drama was awesome.
He birdied, he went out and got it. It felt like we were watching, almost like watching the 400-meter hurdles on that back nine, where guys were just like hitting the top of the hurdle every time you thought someone was like in the lead. They were just like stumble, and then he just went out and got it. He hit that incredible drive on 17. Easy 2-putt birdie, and then that birdie on 18 was pretty outrageous. I guess he had a few shots to play with.
He was 5 over on that front nine. Huh? 5 over on the front nine. The weather was caving in. They did take a bit of a break, and he just used that to regroup. It was there were so many ebbs and flows, and there was so much drama. It was absolute theater, but it's theater that like the Masters can never have. It's theater that the Open probably wouldn't have. And let's be honest, the PGA Champs isn't really anything that anyone cares about. So it's great that like a particular major can have a particular kind of dramatic kind of thing about it. And that all played out in my mind at Oakmont.
Yeah, I think it's the optimal stage for what the US Open is a test of your mental like fortitude. And I was thinking about like if you think about the all the different like ebbs and flows of the week of the US Open. Essentially there's the first like box you have to tick is to just try and make the cut. They always say you're not going to win it on the first 2 days, but obviously you're gonna count yourself out. And then again you have that third day, which is again the guys are just hanging on for like dear life. And who's going to survive that? And it's really just like the survival of the fittest. Like it's that is what the US Open is. I'll be honest, it's not my favorite style of golf. That like very thick rough. I kind of enjoyed it for like the first day or two, just because I just seeing guys just freak out when things aren't going their way. It wore off on me a little bit. I probably preferred the US Open at Pinehurst last year, but maybe that was also just because we had a real like titanic battle at the top with like 2 really big names. But yeah, it was. I'm super glad Oakmont exists, and I love how all of the members, and I love all the like content around Oakmont and how they lean into it being the hardest place in golf, and like that's never going away. And so it's sick. I don't think I could watch the US Open there every year, but like every 5 or 6 years, 100%. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it is what it is. I want to know the financials of that course. I want to know what the members pay. Because they pride themselves on it's like if they want a US Open tomorrow, the course is ready. Like they always say that they're ready to go. And I mean, like you would know, like look what goes into a club championships as your average golf course to get it going. It's hard work. I know when the Sunshine Tour has like the co-sanction with the DP Tour on these places, I've chatted to greenskeepers. It's hectic. Those oaks say that that's like that every single week. They get to play like every single week. I mean, that is probably the hardest working ground staff in golf. It's just crazy.
Yeah, there's a really good thing by the Fried Egg Golf. They did a thing on the agronomy team at Oakmont, so that's worth checking out if you want to do a deep dive on that. Ben, take me to the Ladies European Tour this last weekend. I know we had Casandra Alexander wins on the Ladies European Tour. I know you've done some work with her and some content with her. Talk a little bit about her and what this kind of like breakthrough win means for her.
Yeah, firstly, it's been a long time coming. If you ever get the opportunity, the privilege to actually spend some time around a golf course with Cass, there's something special about her. I mean, she's still so young. She's mid-20s. She's got a really great mentality. I mean, within South African sport right now, people love the fact that we've got so many winners and we've got all these great stories. But in my mind, Cass is up there with all of them in her realm. She's got all the sort of physical attributes that you want from a sort of modern professional. But her professionalism is really something that stands out. But she's also just got that sort of durability, like that wear and tear that maybe comes from like growing up around like mostly oaks on golf courses. Like she's got a hardness to her, which is great. Okay. And I think it's one of those characteristics that she definitely uses to her advantage. Like golf is hard, as we know, and touring is so hard, especially when you live in a place like South Africa. I mean, we knew from the early days of Gary Player, had to catch 7 flights, was on the road for 3 months before he finally got to an event, all that kind of stuff. Like it's super hard. And here she is having to sort of like balance where she can tour, where she can travel. She has a little sort of gaps. Obviously, her husband travels with her where they can. But ultimately, you're living in like pretty average hotels around Europe and you're doing your own washing and all that kind of stuff. It's damn hard. And, it's really great when you see someone that can just go toe-to-toe like Cass has done with some of these big players. Last year she finished, 7th? Was she at in the Open Championship? And I think that was the first time where she got to actually really understand, like, okay, I am actually ready for this level. I am totally good enough. And we're looking long term here, and the wins are going to start coming. And then, she's had some injury concerns the last couple of years. But when she started this year on the Sunshine Tour, I mean, she had all the wins. She was getting top 5s. She absolutely dominated the order of merit. And then she had this like freak injury. Like literally, it was a gym session. And afterwards, she even went and hit balls. And then suddenly her leg just sort of gave way. Okay. So it was an absolute peak of her form of where she was coming out of from those co-sanction events. And suddenly she's sidelined. And I think, it's someone in her position, you would think that like you can easily become impatient. All she wants to do is get in the plane, go to those big events, finally get the European Tour win, get the monkey off her back, and then just go from step to step. But here she was having a forced layoff. I mean, that can mess you up mentally. That can really mess you up. And even like now, when she won, she said like sometimes. Sorry, my apartment's quite close to a road. I'm sure you heard that. And she said, even on this last win, like the weeks going into this tournament, she had to remind herself to be patient. And like when I hear that, it's just that I always think, because she knows what she can do, she knows what attributes she has, and this is a hugely long answer, but I love talking about her success because I know the work she's put in, I know the character that she is, and I think she's such an incredible addition to the South African golfing landscape. And I think she's going to do amazing things. I mean, Ashley Buhai, of course, she's won an Open Championship on for the South African ladies, so to speak. So she's gone and been that sort of groundbreaker. We've had like Leanne Pace, Sally Little back in the day. So few and far between, obviously, because I think it's just a smaller golf pool than compared to the men's game. But like genuine champion going forward. Yeah, so I cannot sing her praises high enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've just been kind of following just sort of passively, through social media and that, and yeah, just kept seeing her pop up, kept seeing her win, and her game just seems to stack up really well for like the the modern game. So
I'll tell you, I had a social game against her a few months ago. I don't think I've ever been so verbally abused and competed against by anyone on the golf course before.
Okay,
and that also,
so she's a hustler. Like she's a hustler. Where did she learn to play?
She's always been up here in Johannesburg.
Okay.
So we have the same home course. We're both based at Royal Johannesburg. So like this is her neck of the woods up here. Just a really great golf person through and through.
No, it's awesome. It'll be really great to keep following her. Obviously, like the real litmus test for these pros, particularly when they like break out of South Africa, is like how do they handle the travel components, the isolation, and that's often really the sign of, and you see it with a lot of the pros, that guys that they shoot the lights out on the Sunshine Tour, and then it takes them 3 or 4 years to become comfortable touring as in Europe. Like I think of somebody like Jaden Shaper, who he seems now to have slowly worked it out what it means to be like a high level touring professional, and it's not an easy process, and it's great to see someone who looks like they've got all the kind of the components for being successful. So
I mean, in many ways we look at it as well. Like when you're in your 20s, you're still growing up. You're still growing up as an adult, but now having to do that while you're on the road and you find the stuff out in different countries, it's so hard. I mean, like you see people start playing team sports. You're in a team environment, so when you go on tour, everything's laid out for you. It's all kind of there. I always said, like, when a young golfer does something well overseas, it's like, shit, like, that's incredible. Because you got to work out, like, you miss a cut, you got to change your flights. You make the cut, you got to change this, you got to do this. You're spending so much money, and in comparative terms to rands, to the euro, to the pound, whatever it is, that's another sort of stress, no matter how well you've prepared for these kind of things. It's mind-boggling how difficult the sport is at that level to get going, and seeing her do this has just been amazing.
Yeah, and this is like a broader comment, but particularly for players who go over to the US. I don't think the golf world in general, I don't think there's enough appreciation for pros who have come from places like South Africa and Australia, even the East, from Japan, Korea, to have to travel into that environment, be living in a completely foreign country away from all of your support systems, completely different culture, and playing on, obviously different golf courses as well. The advantage that the kids have, growing up in stateside and playing high school and college golf in that same environment, and that it's just chalk and cheese. So
yeah.
I don't think enough credit is given to like the international players, and that's always been a bugbear for the international players. I mean, and you could even point to that being a reason for things like Live that have developed. And Greg Norman back in the day was a big advocate of how hard it was for international players, and how the tours should be more they should be more global. So we will be keeping an eye on Cass. But I did want to get your perspective there, because I know you've spent some time with her. Ben, we also have, coming up this week, we're moving towards the Open Championship, which is super exciting. And just everyone to keep an eye on. Next week, Tuesday, guys, is the final round of Open qualifying. So I did a quick look today. So the following Saffers are qualified for the Open. We've got Ernie and Louis, obviously former winners. We have Dylan Naidu, Tristan Lawrence, Darren Fichard, and Dani van Tonda. They all qualified mostly through the SA Open. Dani van Tonda, I think, was through the Order of Merit. And then Brian Newman, not a name that most people will be familiar with. Brian Newman is an amateur. He won the African Amateur Champion at Leopard Creek.
All right.
So he will be playing as an amateur. I believe he's from Bryanston Country Club. And then in final qualifying next week is Lauro, EVR, Burmester, and Nicole Rama. Those are the 4 Saffers who have made it. Well, assume some of them made it through to final qualifying. I'd imagine EVR and Burmy get to tee it up there based on their world ranking. But yeah, something to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's another thing, right? If you're a Sunshine Tour pro and you've got a few weeks off like that, you now look at it and go, right, I want to go to Open Championship qualification. There's a lot of money that you need just to kind of go to there. And then while you're there, you could maybe string in a few events to try actually, either tune up or make it worth your while. But yeah, you've really got to back yourself as a golfer here. There's no just show up and see how it goes. You got to be so deliberate with your planning. And it's a really kind of bitter pill to swallow. I mean, I know some guys that have tried to qualify the last few years. It's unglamorous. I mean, as it was very well documented with the US Open qualifications, like the whole thing of Max Homer carrying his bag for 36 holes. And although I just think that was a weird story. But these major qualifications, the reputations are out of the window. It's get up and play, and it's so damn hard.
I think Max Homer's on a bit of journey of self-discovery. I think it's like, I think he's trying to find himself again.
Yeah, I mean, it must be quite difficult when things do go well and you make all the money and those kind of things work, and then suddenly it's just like not there. Like things just don't click. It's like having that really great car and suddenly it's got a starter motor issue. You're like, what it shouldn't do. It's like it's meant to happen, and then you start tinkering with all the other things, and before you know it, you've just completely changed the seats, and you shouldn't have. You didn't need to. But yeah, I mean, Max is a really quality player. I walked quite a lot with him at the Ryder Cup in Rome when he beat Mats Fitzpatrick in the singles game. Obviously, America were never going to win that after that first day annihilation, shell shocking, call it what you will. But I think he's got good processes. I think he's one of those guys that he can kind of he's got like a mental resolve that is going to be pretty good. Change manufacturers is always a big thing for these guys because everyone's got preference, everyone's got feel. So yeah, I mean, I definitely feel he'll come back. I feel he'll come back and he'll still contest with majors. Whereas someone like maybe a Ricky Fowler, he hit whatever his pinnacle was going to be, and then it was just like, yeah, he'll never get back to that level.
I think Homer's just got to work out the driver. I think that's his biggest problem at the moment. Because yeah, you've seen in the other when he has been driving it well, he's been in contention, like in the top 20. Do yourself a favor, Ben, and you must go check out the course that EVR and Burmy are doing their qualification on. It's Royal Cinque Ports. I don't know if you know where that is.
Right. Yeah. Wasn't there like a big amateur event there recently? Because it's kind of next to, what's the really big one? It's next
to St. George's, Royal St. George's. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think Peter Finch did some stuff there. I don't know. I can waste a lot of time of my normal working hours looking at golf courses like this, but it looks incredible. So
yeah, on YouTube, and another thing is that this is the most amazing thing about travel is that you realize how much golf is actually out there. Like the general Great Britain, what that place has, even though it's probably only playable for like less than half of the year, the courses they have and the daylight hours that make it so special. Oh, there's so many coastlines that you just want to like your romantic notions of maybe living there. But I mean, it's horrible in the winter, obviously, but cheap as there's some courses there.
The other thing I wanted to point out, and I noticed this today looking at the people in the open qualification, there's Robin Williams, who, I think is quite well known. I know you've done an interview with him.
Yeah, good guy.
Playing under, on the open website, he's under an English flag. I know he's played kind of under both flags. But the other thing which really jumped out to me was two names underneath Robin Williams. There's a player from the USA whose name is William Robbins. And I wish I was making this up, but it's it's absolutely true. So we've got Robin Williams and William Robbins, and good. I just pray that they're both in contention, and the commentators have to deal with that, because that's a hell of a thing. Huh?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Ben, talk me through your your ideal sort of Open Championship watching. How does that? What's the how do you absorb watching the Open Championship? What's the first thing that comes to mind? I don't mean being at, obviously first prize would obviously be to be there, but you're sitting at home, the fire going,
Yeah, it's when we finally get that major in our time zone, it really is quite something. Yeah, I mean, like my best friend used to live up here in Johannesburg, and he would always make the big thing about having like a big lunch for the final day. And we'd go to his house, and obviously it would be the big lunch, talking through the early play, and then it would be red wine, fire, and then just stay until Rory chokes at the end.
There we go.
But yeah, it's one of those weeks where it's kind of like the World Test Championship we just had now at Lord's. One of those weeks where you make peace with the fact that there's actually nothing better outside right now in the world. Yeah, I mean, it's like during the majors, it's always nice to play around a golf, because you kind of go hit some balls. There's so much to talk about with your mates, because either you're talking about your golf champs picks, or you're talking about whoever's doing well. So it just makes an easier sort of round of banter. But yeah, with the Open, again, it kind of always just comes back to like the course. Sometimes you have the weird sort of good fortune of playing on a course that's already been at, or there's just certain courses that are a lot more exciting to watch. Obviously, where it is this year in Ireland, like, it's a particularly dramatic golf course. Some of those English and Scottish links are quite flat, and they've got their nuances, they've got their beauty. But like the Irish courses, like you tour around Ireland, and the stuff that you see there, it's almost like a bit more Game of Thronesy. There's like a real sort of stage.
The scale of all the dunes and stuff is on a different level.
Yeah.
Port Rush is going to be incredible, and it really delivered a great Open last time as well. I'm glad. So I was trying to tee you up there, because I was hoping you were going to mention sitting by a fire drinking red wine. Because
I would love to. I didn't have a fireplace, and I drink so little nowadays.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what I was trying to segue into to tell our listeners that for the Open Championship, guys, we are teaming up with a well-known winery from Stellenbosch, and we will bring you those details in the next podcast. But they're going to bring a great deal on their wine just for the week of the Open Championship. So you don't want to miss out. Basically, we're doing this as like a Goat Track members deal only. So what you need to do is just go to the Goat Track website, sign up as a member. It's free to sign up. And then we'll go into more detail. We'll send out a mail, and we'll may even do a little wine tasting on our next podcast. So yeah, watch the space, guys. You're definitely going to want to get involved there. I think for all the reasons that Ben laid out, the time zone, everything. It is a great Saturday and Sunday to look forward to. We've covered quite a lot of ground, Ben, but I asked you sort of pre-podcasts I sort of challenge you to say, what do you think are kind of the three biggest stories in, and we are going to get to your trip to Scotland. I promise we're not going to leave that off. But let's give these sort of like 5 minutes each. But what do you think are kind of the three biggest stories in golf at the moment, or storylines? And then if I've got a couple as well, and I'm sure some of them are probably the same, got similar overlaps.
Yeah, I mean, like straight away, the gut feeling would be that the PGA Tour's new commissioner, new structure, whatever they want to call it, is this finally going to be the step that we get to find out what's happening between LIV and PGA? Because I think it's almost been like 2 years since Jay Monahan and the Saudis were like suddenly like buddies, but then we heard nothing. We've literally heard nothing. Things are carried on as they were. And ultimately, I don't think it's going to change too much, but it's just kind of weird how nothing happened after that. They were talking about all these things around. There was going to be huge lawsuits. LIV had all the leverage. That's why the PGA Tour backtracked. And then they made that Tomorrow Golf League thing as a complete and utter smokescreen because that wasn't good for golf. That was just a sideshow. So I feel like that's a big talking point, but it's one of those things where you can go down a huge rabbit hole, or you can just wait for a headline and you'll probably be equally as entertained. So it's a story. It's there. How it comes out, I can take or leave it because it's just been so much time now.
It's funny. I'm so glad you brought this up because this is actually one of my 3 things as well. And I wasn't sure whether or not you were going to touch on it, but it's almost like the story, the Live PGA kind of animosity storyline has sunken way down, like from a media perspective. And I think it's also like a little bit of like apathy from media where guys are just like fatigued by the whole thing, and they're just like, look, like, I don't know, wake me up when there's actual news, because like
it's such a good, Terence. I mean, you absolutely nailed it there. Golf is a very cordial, fun sport, right? This was the first time there was animosity, and everybody went in like Pearl Harbor for those couple of months, and then you're so right, they just died of fatigue.
They're just, people are just like, oh, I don't know, like I can't do these, and there aren't even any more rumors anymore. Like, I mean, for that first 6 months, it was like, this guy's going to live, Rory's to live, Rahm's to live. And it was like, oh, people were sharing the thing. And now it's like, are they getting back together? Aren't they? I don't know. Do I really care? I personally think the storyline is kind of like that the golf world is actually potentially starting to get used to the idea of like that they're never going to like get back together. And we're moving towards having like a multi-tour structure.
But would you say that's because Liv's actually maybe done okay? Maybe people feel that it can exist. Maybe they feel it has a shit value there.
I think it's done okay in the eyes of the people who started it, right? Like, I think according to them, it's been a success. It depends what definition of success is. I think for the players who've gone there, it's been a huge success because most of them have, especially the guys who were sort of moving off into like their retirement phase, they've all like filled up their coffers. I think you could argue for some of the top line players, I don't think it's been a success. I think of guys like John Rahm, you could put Dustin Johnson was probably already past it. I think for Bryson, it's been a success. So what I'm struggling to see though, Ben, is what the incentive is for the tours to come together, because the purses are now bigger on both sides of the fence than they've ever been.
Sure.
And there's less competition basically to win those purses. So what would the incentive be for players, particularly on Live, especially if you're in a top line player, like if you're a Cameron Smith or a Dean Burmester, do you want to go back to the PGA Tour and basically play for the same purse against like a very, very, very deep field? Or do you want to play against 10 professionals and a couple of like plumbers and firemen and a few like kind of retirees? I'm struggling to see how players are going to buy into like a merge. And I think there's quite a lot of ego when it comes to the Live kind of management side, and the guys who started that tour. I think it's like become their baby, and they've got so much cash that I guess they're going to keep just spending it. I don't know, but so yeah, I don't think they're coming back together anytime soon, and I think like the golf world is kind of just like, okay, cool, it's just going to be the majors now. Basically, that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't see the incentive either. And I also don't see this whole coming together thingy, because there's enough golfers out there to make things like people go, the leaderboards in the PGA Tour aren't great. But then it's like, well, like how often do you actually watch golf? Like, do you know who like there's so many golfers that are absolutely amazing, right? It's like really, really great guys, and they should be there, and they actually are there. And if you actually watch them, they're pretty good to watch as well. I was trying to think of like an example of a player there that doesn't get the sort of credit. Anyway, look, let's not get too deep onto this. I agree. There's no interest for live guys to go back, to have to play more, probably earn less. And there's massive prestige if you go and win like one of these signature events or whatever they are. Amazing. Like especially with like a guy like Tommy Fleetwood, if he had won this tournament this weekend, that would have been amazing. Tommy could have been making 10 times much money on Live, and that probably wouldn't have done it for him.
Justin
as
Rose.
far as Justin Rose, like as far as
It was
getting the
quite
guys
surprising
back,
he didn't go.
I think in a best case scenario, why I like Live and why I want to succeed is that it gives a great narrative to every single major, because then it's like, okay, who are the Live guys coming into the mix here, and what are the chances of winning a major? And when a Live guy wins a major, I think it's cool. I really do think it's cool, and I think that there needs to be more events like where that comes together, where there is a PGA sort of 8 players that go take on a Live 8. Like, they should put the big boy pants on around that now. Ryder Cup's awesome. President's Cup's mostly shit. But they must just make peace with the fact that there's a really cool thing that the fans actually might want here. Let's forget about all the sort of ethical administration / organizational kind of stuff. Fans ultimately should be driving more about where this is going. I don't want these guys to merge. I like the fact that it's kind of rogue. I like the fact that it's kind of a little bit dicky here and there. But would it be something worth considering for like an 8-on-8 kind of thing? If the guys hate Live so much and they've got such big opinions, cool, go play them. Go play some amazing golf course somewhere in the world. Make it like an exhibition thing. That's entertaining. Then I'm all for it.
It's almost, yeah, I totally agree with you. But it's almost like, as I was saying, I think even with the players now, there isn't that like vitriol hate anymore. Like it's kind of a little boring. It's kind of like died down a lot. I think for me, when Live first started, I think the primary reason that I didn't like it was because I knew what it was going to do to our top South African players who left. When I say what it's going to do, I straight up, I don't give a shit how much money they have in their bank accounts. For me, it was about what impact is this going to have on their chance of like winning a major, and it was always going to have a negative impact. A guy like Louis suddenly, as they and I don't even mean it like the quality of golf that they're playing against, in that it was more just like the qualification criteria, because they were going to fall off the cliff when it came to the world rankings. And I mean, now you've got a guy like Dean Burmester who's having to play qualifiers. He shouldn't really be. We know that. We know if he was on the PGA Tour, he would be automatically qualified. He would be in the top 50 or 30 at least. So I think that's probably my kind of biggest bugbear. But I'm glad you kind of brought it up as well. I'm going to throw out another one to you, Ben. I think, will Tommy Fleetwood ever win on the PGA Tour? This is a great storyline at the moment. It's almost becoming like when he's in contention or in the lead, it's going to start becoming like must-watch TV, because there's no doubt that the guy it's impacting him. I mean, you could see that on Sunday. He was definitely nervous, and it's a roller coaster. I think the obvious answer is that yes, he will win, but it is a storyline that's going to keep growing. It's a bit like will Rory ever win another major? It's starting to. It's not quite at that level of storyline, but I think it's something that's going to be continually worth watching as he goes forward, because he's playing such great golf. It's just a mental thing. Yeah,
he's such a solid kind of player as well. We look at the sort of attributes. I mean, obviously, he's a guy that grew up playing links golf, phenomenal ball striker. I think he's got really good length for someone of his frame. So there's not a lot of worries within his game. He could have stayed on the DP World Tour and been great, but that's everybody migrates across. How long has he been out there for full? Like, has it been 3 seasons? Has it been longer than that? Like, if you were to look at Tommy as a PGA Tour player, how many seasons do you reckon it's been now?
No, it's been like six or 7 seasons.
That many? Okay, then that's a bit of a worry. Because I was of the impression, again, COVID did so much to my perception of time. Yeah. Then
look, he was playing both tours, obviously for quite a while, but he's been playing he's played 160 PGA Tour events. So It's a lot.
It's such a weird thing. Again, it goes back to what we were saying about travel. Okay, it's a different aspect here because these guys have got the money, so it's not like it's a difficult kind of thing, but it's difficult for, I think, some people just maybe don't like to be on the road and be out and away. I mean, Tommy's wife's much older than him, right? Maybe he likes just being at home and looked after and stuff. Maybe there's that aspect. He is just so solid.
He won so easily on the European tour. You know, it was like when he was in contention, it's not like he had a difficulty closing.
Big things. Handy in the Ryder Cup. There's so much you can say about the guy, really. Closing in any sport's difficult. It takes something out of someone at a certain time, and you either have it or you don't on the day. It can happen to anybody. But, you know, do you reckon the PGA Tour stage maybe just gets a bit too big for him? You know, it's like the brash crowds. There's like a different kind of heat, whereas DP World Tour is almost friendly, eh? It's like polite claps. It's nice. Sure, people have a good time, but it's almost like chilled. Some of those PGA Tour events, especially on the East Coast, rough as hell. You know, New England now, Keegan Bradley's like the hometown hero. Like people, if I were to really put my finger on it, I just think that, and we've seen it obviously in the majors, maybe Tommy just shies away from that big stage. Like he is a quiet oak, you know, he's got that sort of sunken posture. He's like the fourth kid of the Bee Gees that no one knew about. You know, he's got the long. I just think he's a nice oak, but the stage maybe just gets too big.
I was just thinking now, like, I wonder how he did because he's obviously like in big pressure moments in the Ryder Cup, he's like delivered, you know, and obviously when they were in France, we had him and Molinari who went like unbeaten, and then in Rome last year, Tommy had a great Ryder Cup. I was just wondering how he did at the Ryder Cup that was in the States.
Western Straits.
Yeah, I have to go and have a look at
basically, that. I mean, everyone did badly for Team Europe. I think Lowry was the only guy who had half of a decent go, and then it ended with Rory crying. So I actually can't remember any European guy standing out in Western Straits.
It was a tough Ryder Cup because they had very few fans and European fans. But might be something just to keep an eye on for this Ryder Cup if you're a betting person. You know, maybe Tommy's maybe his home game model's strong, but maybe Interestingly enough, Ben, you know, when Louis Oosthuizen obviously famously has also battled to win, and I haven't fact checked this, but as far as I understand, he's never won a professional golf tournament in North America.
That he hasn't.
I'm pretty sure that's right. So Louis won one PGA Tour event, which was kind of a cheat code win because it was actually the British Open in 2010 when he wasn't a PGA Tour member yet. But I went and had a look at Louis' stats on the PGA Tour after the British Open. So we've got Tommy, who's finished second 6 times, and Tommy's had 42 top 10s. He currently holds, that's the out-and-out record for somebody who hasn't had a win. Louis Oosthuizen, since that British Open, when he basically became a PGA Tour member after that win, Louis had 12 second places and 42 top 10s. So
wow,
quite interesting parallels there between Tommy and Louis.
12 second places.
It was always amazing that Louis couldn't get 12 second places. Remember, he's finished second in obviously all the majors count as PGA Tour events, and he finished second in all the
couple of Masters in there.
So, but still, there's been quite a few others as well. So I think Louis gets off lightly because of that British Open win carries his stats quite well.
But I mean, Terence, I almost feel like Sorry, I mean, I can almost feel like I make the same point. Sometimes I think the stage is too big for someone like Louis, because he must love Liv because it's so chilled. He's with his buddies, and he gets to like. But again, I just think sometimes, depending on the personality, and these are personality traits that make these guys so great as a primary, but then obviously it's what kind of almost like stunts them at these times where they are in contention at certain platforms. When you watch when he won at the Open Championship, it's St Andrews. It's a very, again, kind of more sedate kind of course. You got the out and the in. There's certain places where lots of fans. Otherwise, it's quite chilled. Big grandstands, big brash crowds. It really can make or break a person.
There's another player that I have this theory about who doesn't handle big crowds in that well is Colin Morikawa. And my theory on him is, his first major was at Harding Park when there was literally no crowd. It was proper COVID era. And then he won at I think it was at Royal St George's, and they had like a limited crowd as well. So I have a theory that he battles with kind of the big stage as well.
I don't think he's like the greatest fan of the Phoenix Open and stuff like that. No, you don't see him. Yeah, you know what?
Listen, he's not endearing himself to people at the moment. So
but I also think he's one of those guys that's always lived in a bubble. You see it within golf. You don't see it as much in other professional sports, especially contact sports. But you get those guys who've absolutely lived in their bubbles. I'd love to do a sort of analysis on the other side of things. Guys who maybe weren't the greatest players, but got so G'd up. I mean, obviously Poulter in the Ryder Cups, and like a couple of guys who maybe punched above their weight because they feed on that stuff. Keegan Bradley actually might be that guy, and that's why he has to pick himself for the Ryder Cup this year. He has to, especially after he was
I totally agree with that.
I mean, so that was another talking point I was going to bring up, is that Keegan Bradley should have gone to Rome. He was exactly what that team needed. They needed him 100%. And they needed Bryson, but they needed some backbone. And Zach Johnson just gave him the biggest, just dodge. And I think to make up for that, he must pick himself and he must play every session. Just go hard.
I totally agree with that. That's I was like, they need to take him to Rome, because when you particularly when you're going to an overseas Ryder Cup, like you need guys who are going to bring like some like energy and have got that, like whether it's fake or not, it doesn't matter. Like you look at Poulter, like what he did at Medina. That was what created the charge was kind of Poulter on that third day at Medina, and those are the characters you need. You do not need the same old, like kind of old boys club, the Russell Henleys and that's not going to win you a Ryder Cup overseas.
No, again, and this is absolutely no flex, the fact that I was there, but on that first day, when the Americans were getting taken to pieces, I remember watching, I think it was Ricky and Colin Morikawa, to our original point here. The two of them sort of ambled onto that first tee with zero energy, like zero. Ricky had the sniffles. Morikawa was worried about his hair. The only guy that stood up was the only guy who actually didn't mind being hated that week, and that was Cantlay. And he was the only guy who actually showed any sort of fortitude for what that event actually is.
Anyway, something to watch. I'm on board with Keegan picking himself. I think, look, it's obviously a double-edged sword, because if he doesn't pick himself and they don't do well, then people are going to say, well, you obviously should have played. You haven't picked the best team. If he does, so it's a great little conundrum as well, I guess, for that, like Luke Donald can kind of pick on. But I think if there's one guy who can do it, Keegan's just that the belief in himself, and that New York crowd is going to be, he's going to be playing them. He's going to have them in the palm of his hand. So yeah, it's going to be good TV.
I really hope it does. It's just that it is the most ultimate pressure you could possibly put yourself under, because the moment you play badly, even your own guys are going to say, Keegan, get back in the golf cart. Like those crowds are hectic. They'll turn. It's the thing, like 6 beers and the wrong people, they'll turn on anything.
Yeah, that's true as well. He'd probably play himself maybe in 4 balls where he can, like, he can pair himself up with someone else. Hopefully, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I don't really have any strong feelings on. I think the home ground advantage for Ryder Cups is so massive. But I think it is going to be a good one. Ben, my last sort of point take, and after this we're gonna do a quick 15 minutes on your golf trip to Scotland. But I just really feel like we need to have a good to great Open Championship. The last couple have been okay. We had Brian Harman winning at
That
Royal
wasn't
Liverpool.
okay. That was terrible. That was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice about it, but
I know you are, and well done. But it was Brian
really wasn't
Harman.
great. It was pretty
Brian
shit.
Harman in the rain with Tommy.
That's probably
coming
about
second.
as bad as it gets. Yeah. And then last year, we had some local interest there for a while with Tristan Lawrence, and then Xander winning. Xander's not everyone's cup of tea. So also think that the last two majors have just been kind of okay. Even when Scotty won at the PGA, it was all right, but it wasn't great. So I really hope that we get an iconic. I feel like we're due for like an iconic Open Championship. Maybe like a dual type scenario. But it's something that I'm like really holding thumbs for, that we get an iconic one, possibly with like a British winner would be great. I think thinking of Lowry, Rory, Rose, Tommy, even John Rahm, like something like that. I really need a good Open Championship. I can't. All respect to JJ Spawn, I just it's going to be tough if he's in the final pairing on Sunday. I might be consuming an excess amount of that wine that we're going to be
enjoying the wine more than the golf. Yeah, I get you, but I think it's something that's kind of in my mind been a big thing about the year. In Ryder Cup years like this, you want the majors to kind of give you a precursor to what might be happening in September. And I think it was so great when Rory started with that win at the Masters. Like, okay, it's hard for Europeans to go there. It's like away wins in the Ryder Cup are very difficult for a lot of reasons. But when in an American Ryder Cup year for a European guy to win the first major, that was perfect. That was exactly what we needed. And as you say, the last two haven't really added to what that dynamic could be. So if we get a prominent American against someone who's going to be a prominent European, and we're not talking about like one of those young Scandinavians, like no offense to them, but it's not like they really are the needle pullers, You want a guy like a Lowry, obviously like a Rory, a Tommy, one of those guys. You want those guys swinging at the end.
God, even Jordan Spieth, like give that to me. I'm here for a Spieth revival as well, particularly at the Open.
I fear that the story in Jordan's finished. I know there's always the story technically at every PGA that he goes to. This is the Grand Slams waiting to happen. But I mean, the Oak nearly murdered someone the other day. Like the way
he did,
the way how wayward that Oak is, and yeah. I mean, even if he was putting at his old prime, it still wouldn't save the rest of his game right now.
Look, I just want him to be involved. That's, I think for me is like you want to. He makes you feel something. Spieth. It's entertaining. And Bryson, in fact, throw Bryson into that mix as well. I don't know how Bryson's game stacks up on links courses. I'm not convinced about it. Right.
I almost feel with Bryson, because on links courses you can do so many different things, he does. And if he could sort of narrow that focus in a little bit more, he'd probably be a lot more effective. But because he looks at it and goes, well, I can hit it on that hole over there, and if I play it here with this wind, I can do this. I think if he just kind of narrows it down, because unfortunately, I think links golf courses sometimes short circuit Bryson's mind. It's just simple as that. Like,
I think that's a good take. I think we've seen that at Augusta with him as well, and he seems to be slowly figuring it out.
Sometimes you've just got to get up there and you've just got to play good golf. There's no figuring it out. You've just got to beat what's in front of you, play the fairway in front of you as well, and just try to get yourself in birdie rolls and hope you're putting well that day. Like the guy's got so much ability. He's got so much BMT. He's got so much drive. If he would just put that into one lane, I think a little bit more often, rather than worrying about like, I need to shoot 17 under. Like with the whole thing with him in the Masters, he said like, this is a par 68 for me. Like, dude, you're going to hurt yourself if you're already putting your mind into that sort of
Didn't work out well.
vice-like grip of stupidity.
Yeah, I'd like to see him arrive and sort of pull like a Tiger mentality. You know, that one Open when Tiger, I don't think, hit his driver the whole Open. I think Bryson rock up with like a driving iron and just like plot his way around there. He's going to be, if he does that, he'll be in the mix. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
He definitely doesn't have the head for that. Tiger can grind out 72 holes in his prime as he did. Bryson doesn't have that. Bryson's a content creator. There's not a chance he's driver ironing to places and percentages.
Oh God, I'm looking forward to whatever content he's going to bring us during the Open week as well. Hopefully he goes and tries to like break the course record of like a little local Irish muni or something. That'd be entertaining.
That would actually be very good.
Ben, talking about courses in the UK, you have but in the last couple of months had a incredible trip to Scotland, which I kind of followed along on social media, and you also sent me a couple of pictures on WhatsApp and that. Just for our listeners, I wanted to hear about the trip. Maybe just give us a quick rundown of like, the crew, your itinerary, like what the motivation was. Just give us like that sort of introduction part to where you guys went and who you were with.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, my best mate and I went on a 2-ball trip to St Andrews. It was really, really special. We played, I think, 4 courses. And once you go to St Andrews and you see what it's all about, you totally understand it and you get it and you want to go back the moment is possible. So a really good mate of mine, we did this KZN golf trip a few years back. And he was living in China at the time. Then he came back to SA. And then he had a really cool business opportunity. So he went and he shipped up, moved to London 2 years ago. And he's just been working really hard since then. He's just been like building a business, building a family. It's been a lot on. He hasn't had mates times. And out of all my mates, I'm proud to say I've got a big variety of golf mates. This is the guy that probably enjoys a round of golf more than anyone else. Like, he puts his heart and soul into it. He loves it. Good competitive golfer. And he was like, fuck, I've turned 40. I really want to spend some time with my mates. So he put this trip together, which was just phenomenal. So he lives in Kent in Seven Oaks. So literally as we arrive, he's like, cool, we're going to play the London Club as a little sort of like, little opener. And the London Club on a perfect sunny English day with a little bit of wind was one of my sort of like, it was such an amazing golf experience. Okay, it helped that I played kind of well. The other guys on tour with us is a good friend of his who lives there, also immigrated from KZN, but like literally kind of after school varsity days, he went over. And then my mate Justin's brother, who lives at Princess Grant and plays Princess Grant, he doesn't really leave there. He's now become like the mayor of the estate, from what I understand. So very keen golfers. Again, like just the perfect sort of crew. So we played like a SA versus UK sort of mix. London Club first day, went down to the final hole. Our mate Jamie made eagle to win on the final hole.
Wow.
So it was, I mean, my birdie was not good enough. He drained an eagle. So like it was set. The tour was absolutely set in the back of the most incredible experience. And London Club, they've got 2 courses, the International and the Heritage. It is like an international office for the DP World Tour. They do have events there. Basically, someone bought some farmland. It's right by Brands Hatch racetrack. So you've got
it's like the southeast.
Yeah.
Sort of southeast of London. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a bit over an hour.
Okay.
Really, really amazing venue. It's incredible, smart design. Jack Nicklaus course. Opened late 90s. I'd love to go back there. Incredible conditioning. Just a beautiful place. Just such an amazing place to start a golf tour. And then up to St Andrews. So the whole thing about St Andrews was to play the obvious ones, right? So always got to go in the ballot system for the old course, which we went into, but we had rounds booked at Carnoustie. We had rounds booked at Kings Barnes and Castle course. And then our mate Jamie, when he did immigrate, he married a girl from the general Fife region, which he was sure to tell every starter that we came across on the course.
He's
So he had a
basically a
good
local.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that was the thing. He was a local. He was the only guy that actually had his hip flasks. He got us all hip flasks, but none of us are big whiskey drinkers in the course. But he was gunning it every day, and he'd been in the region a lot of times. And he said Dunbarney Links is a place you have to play. It's a pretty new course. I think they've had a Scottish woman.
It's kind of on the road from Edinburgh towards St Andrews, I think, right?
So Edinburgh up to St Andrews, and once you're in St Andrews, it's a little bit up and left and across. So it's like a 25. So it's a little bit further once you get to St Andrews, and it's amazing. Like, it's one of those links golf courses that's made for Americans. So the clubhouse is very understated. Americans don't shower by the looks of things, because that's not a thing they put money into. But you're going to you'll go into the main bar area. You'll see the different beer taps, big screens showing the sport. Great place to have lunch. They've got lots of trinkets in the pro shop, a nice practice range, but this golf course is phenomenal. So, when you go to St Andrews and you go to these kind of places, some of those old links are actually quite quirky. They're not always in the best patches of land. Yeah. The routing's a bit funny, but this was like built for purpose to be a massive championship links golf course. Absolutely incredible. We obviously played it in proper wind, so we got a fool's money's worth. It was again just such a spectacular way to spend a day. Sun's going down at like 9:30. I think now it's more like 10:30 down there. So like long days. You get out of there, you're having dinner at like 9. It's still kind of lightish, but really incredible golf course that I think you're going to hear a lot more about in years to come. We all know that Kings Barnes obviously is one of the more recent golf courses in that strip. It hosts obviously the Alfred Dunhill, big pedigree around the golf course. This might be there one day. It really is that good. I think it's going to take some time to knit in, but it's got like a real sort of wildness around it, with sort of like split fairways, incredible undulation, like ginormous greens that you don't expect until you get there. A really nice mix of like some pretty tough holes into the wind, and then you got like your more drivable par 4s. The par 5, 6, 15th it's just a monster. It's basically a battlefield, and you hope to come out at the end of it, like waste bunkers, fairway bunkers, slopes, undulations. Yeah, I always think like the market with good golf courses is that while you're playing it, you just wish you'd played there before, so you would just have more fun. It's just so many different ways to play, and it was a great experience. It really, really was. Carnoustie, I've never played there before. That was pretty special, but the weather was just ridiculous. The wind was so strong, my drone went up. It then lost all ability to control itself. It then died next to the Barry Burn. User error mostly, but it's like it's quite weird when you play the old.
So did you John Van der Welt yourself into the Barry Burn with your drone?
My drone made triple bogey. I carried on. It was like, it's cold as well. Like Carnoustie's, it's fierce. It really is fierce. But oddly enough, there's places where it feels very municipal almost, like not that great. And then you get to the last 4 or 5 holes, and it totally like redeems itself. Some of the hardest holes you'll ever see, playing at the teeth of the wind. I wouldn't rush back if I had the choice. It's just that there's some absolute dead parts of Carnoustie. There's a municipal course either side of it, which also doesn't help the sort of aesthetic and the sort of look about it. But it's like one of those have to do, and they make a big deal about like the heritage of the Open in the clubhouse there. The clubhouse is basically a museum with a pro shop and indoor driving range, because there's no driving range facility there. It's also probably just too windy to go hit balls a lot of the time. So Carnoustie's great, but
I've heard that sort of feedback a lot on Carnoustie is just like, it's kind of worth experiencing, but it's like a once off. It's really hard, and it's like, obviously there's a lot of like memories there from the Opens that have happened there, but it's like cool. I'm good. I don't need to necessarily play that course again.
It's
I've
also
done
a bit
that.
of a drive, huh? You're going to be, it's like an hour 20 from St. Andrews with all those ridiculous speed restrictions through those tiny, windy roads. So, I mean, we had quite a late time. We teed off, I think, 3:30. By the time we're back in our hotel, it was 11 o'clock at night, and we'd been pounded on the golf course. Yeah, it's a bit of a drive. You want to stay in St. Andrews. I would say if you're going to do the St. Andrews trip, and of course, budget's a massive reality if you are traveling on the Rand. And a lot of times you just won't travel because of the Rand. But to be in St. Andrews and be able to walk onto the old course when you do play it in itself is a great experience. So it's going to be more costly, but that's what we got to do. So we got into the ballots and we got a tee time on the most beautiful day, and we literally walked the 150 meters from our hotel onto the old course. You get into that first tee and you play.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just explain how that ballot system works again. Is it the one where you enter sort of the night or the day before at the sort of starter's hut there?
So I think from what I understand, a lot of that sort of like you physically got to go and wait and pull the all-nighters and that kind of stuff doesn't really happen as much anymore. I think if you want to try,
they've stopped doing that now. They've got a lottery system, but you've got
online.
to physically be there to put your name down on the list, but you don't have to sleep outside.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you got a group with 4 people, you're going to struggle to get times. If you're just one person, you can literally rock up and just wait a bit. So that's my understanding. What we did is that we just went online every single day. So literally wake up at breakfast, put your name down for the lottery. And we got a really great time. Like late morning was just perfect. Yeah, it is. It's one of those things you do, but you do it while you've booked the other 3 or 4 times around, obviously in St. Andrews. If you go even the old, so how it is like if you're staying on the first tee of the old course, you look out, you got the Jubilee course to the right, basically. The old course goes in there, then you got the new course, and then there's the Eden and something else. So there's courses out there, but like Jubilee and New, the waiting it's booked for months. Try going in the summer; it's really, really booked out. Look, you'll always find a way, and that is part of the trip. Like everywhere you go in the town, people talk about being in the ballot for this, and then they went and played this, and it really is quite a thing. I mean, look, I love talking about golf courses because they're obviously never the same in any 2 trips. And I think the dynamic of having guys that have played before in the courses and having guys that have never played in the golf course also creates a cool dynamic. But, Kings Barnes, phenomenal, greatest day ever. After crashing my drone, there was no wind for the rest of the tour. So Kings Barnes is, I think if I would be hard-pressed, like what's your best golf course you ever played anywhere in the world? Haven't played extensively overseas, but I've played some decent courses. Kings Barnes is still my favorite. There's a certain sort of feel about it. You're very close to the ocean. Just a cool place, and probably the coolest place to have a beer afterwards. As in, like, the staff really want you there. They're happy to see you. Really cool clubhouse. Very bizarre communal 3-head shower. But lekker. Like, it's just it's kind of weird. I mean,
the showers. Let's get out in front of it. The showers in the UK are pretty damn awful. Like, I don't think I've ever had a good shower in the UK.
From my friend Jamie, who lives there, he's like, Oaks don't actually shower after golf. It's a bit weird. It's a bit gross. Guys will literally play on like a hot summer's day and get straight into a jacket and tie and go have lunch in these nice places. No shower, no little freshen up. Yeah, that's
interesting. I've got some of our members at Gowrie are also they're members at Muirfield. I need to ask them about that because they do a lot of 36-hole days there where you have to wear a jacket and tie at lunch. You have like a 3-course lunch. So it'd be interesting to hear how many of those members are skipping the shower. Maybe it gets you out on the course quicker.
Loads, hey. Also, I guess there you're cold all the time, but I don't know. It's a thing. But that's the UK. Like there's quirks around it, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So look, Kings Barnes is incredible. When we played the old course, I love the old course because of what it is. There's something about that place that I just. If you look at the course in isolation, I think you're kind of missing the point. If you you say that it's overhyped because of its heritage, I think you kind of miss the point. It's phenomenal. You want to hit good shots there. It's got a different feeling to it. The moment you get off the 18th, if someone said, "Do you want to play again?" I would generally always say, "No, thanks. I've had a nice day." I would get straight back on that first tee.
Yeah.
The club would be in my hand already. The sentence wouldn't have even finished. I don't get that. I don't get that feeling from other golf courses. But I think that the one course that to take out of the ones that we went to, Castle Course, which was built in 2008, that was phenomenal. It's like if Pinnacle Point was in Scotland, was a better golf course, and obviously hugely links themed. That's how I would look at Castle Course. It is so good, so fun. It's so ridiculously slopey in places, but yeah, amazing views of St Andrews. The coastline there is actually really, really pretty, and we played on a day with like not a breath of wind, which is very odd. So yeah, we ended up playing 5 courses there, plus London Club, 6 in total. We could do the exact same tour again with playing all kinds of other courses in the region. Another great thing is that like when you're in St Andrews itself, it's only golfers. It's a great thing, and it's a bit of a shitty thing because ultimately you're just going to be around middle-aged American men, which drives the price up of everything. More so than 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago when I was there, more of an international feel, but like I saw zero Asians. I heard no exotic European languages. It was just middle-aged American oaks.
Just Americans, yeah.
And obviously you can hear Americans because they speak louder. And you get a feel for what the courses are in the region because some of these guys are pulling like 36 holes a day. I mean, like they've got the money to, so sure, I can have a crack. But there are so many great courses there that we didn't even get a sniff of. There's so much of Scotland that is like that. Yeah, Terence, it's a hard thing because the moment you get a taste for links golf, it's something you keep dreaming about. Not because you're just playing golf and it's travel and stuff. It's like it is what golf was always kind of meant to be. It's what you make of it. You know, it's not about the obvious aesthetics. It's not about the obvious sort of scorecard length, whatever. Because every single day is different. Like I said, we had a couple of windless days, which is just absolutely crazy, and then we had days where I felt I was close to hypothermia, and I was hitting 3-wood like 160. It's you can't make it up. You can only just sit, appreciate it, and it's how it humbles you. Like I live in Joburg where I can stand and deliver huge yardages and I know what I'm doing. Golf there makes you realize like distance means very, very little. Be smart about where you leave it. Be smart about how you use the ground. And that in itself is so stimulating. It's so stimulating that it's like when you get to read a really great book, or you finally watch a movie that really grabs you, or you meet someone who has amazing conversation over a cup of coffee, whatever. That's what Scottish and links golf is in a golf playing sense. And even by saying that, I don't know if I've even come close to doing it justice. But like when you're there, it's just the start of our conversation was like, what does it mean to be obsessed with golf? And being on those golf courses actually reminds you what it really is, and how much you love the game. I think that's why everyone has to go, just so that it can show you just how much you love golf. Truly, truly, it's not your monthly medal at your home course. It's not like a golf trip down the coast in summer. If you really want to feel something, you stand on those courses, and it happens.
Yeah, and it kind of compounds as well, right? So you probably the first kind of day or two, you're kind of adjusting to it, you know, the conditions, the ground, the weather, you're walking, obviously. I think that's like a huge component that like,
so important.
You know, the stereotypical South African golf tour of like, 3 days, guys in golf carts full of cooler boxes, full of beer. And, that's maybe for some, but I think if you genuinely want to like connect with the game, and there's kind of no better place to do it, and it I guess, as you know, every additional day that you're playing, you kind of listen, straight up, I haven't done a tour like this in Scotland, so it's like way up on my bucket list. I have been to St Andrews. Unfortunately, didn't play golf when I was there. I was not in a frame. I was not in a mindset of playing golf, but I've toured around Scotland, and looked at a lot of these golf courses, and it's so high up on my bucket list. I think there's so many regions to go to. I think you touched on it. I think the advice you always hear is don't try and do too much. Base yourself in one place. I'm just looking here on Google Maps while you were talking. Around St Andrews, there must be 10 to 15 golf courses within like 10 kilometers, 10, 20 kilometers. So, and probably a whole bunch of, you guys really ticked off some of the really best courses in that area, but, there's, I'm sure, tons of little hidden gems, that are worth discovering as well. So, no, cool, man. And out of interest, do you get a sense that is St Andrews busy, like full of Americans, like kind of all the time, or is there a sense that there's a bit of a shoulder season and like a slightly off season? I'm just thinking from like a South African perspective, if guys want to think about going over there, you talk about maybe trying to get in there in the shoulder seasons, when it's maybe slightly cheaper, slightly less crowded.
Yeah, if you look at the rates, go onto the St Andrews website, go through the rates. It doesn't really get much cheaper. When you do, it's obviously completely based on that very inhospitable winter, and you play off mats. When it gets into the winter times, you are carrying a piece of AstroTurf around with you.
Very different experience.
Yeah, I love playing golf, but if there's a couple of factors like that, like if I'm standing on the road hole and I'm trying to trap a little 6-side in to go past the bunker, but I'm hitting off a mat, doesn't do it for me. That's like watching a movie through a window at someone else's house. You're there, but no thanks.
No.
Yeah, there's a very definite shoulder season. Things definitely quieten down. And look, the whole thing about the summer is everything plays to its advantage. You've got the very, very long days. Like you can tee off at like 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock and get around in. It's like any other tourist attraction in the world, right? It becomes too crowded. The prices become unreasonable. You want that authentic experience, but so does everyone else at the same time because of holidays and accessibility. I just think that you have to play it. You can't play off a mat. You can't play those winter things.
No.
You can also
that's not in the realm of possibility. But I think that's leave that to the locals to chip around on mats. I'm thinking more like kind of like the end of as you're getting into autumn. I think those courses are still operational around end of September, early October, and you're probably a bit colder, probably slightly shorter days.
Terence, I'm pretty sure it's still peak rates even in those months. I could be wrong, but it wasn't like one of those sort of things where it drops off. Like they're very optimistically stretched. They very optimistically stretch that peak season into quite deep in the year.
Especially St Andrews, and they can, right? As you say, they got the demand. Yeah,
such a demand. So that's why £350 to go play there. No problem.
Yeah. Hey, well, listen, Ben, we've cracked an hour and a half here. This was fun, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on. We've covered a lot of ground. I know you don't need a lot of encouragement to talk golf, so that's why I sent you a message to get you on. But it's been great to hear your takes.
If it was anybody else this week, I've had bugger all sleep. I had to go to Cape Town just to shoot some content. Anybody else, I would have said no thank you, or I would have made an excuse that my cat had a play on or something. But for you, I've always got time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to actually playing golf with you sometime. And yeah, do love your podcast. And yeah, dude, anytime.
No, awesome. Let's leave it at that. We do look forward to welcoming you to KZN. We're going to get that in the calendar. And yeah, guys, as we said, make sure you're on our Go Track subscriber list, because we're going to have a great wine special for the Open. And with that, let the pod end.
All right, man.